Breaking news today.
Yes.
Happened about 15 minutes ago. Chris Paul's Clipper career is officially over in what I would call a shocking move. I said last week, a lot of this Chris Paul stuff felt like he was just trying to get DeAndre Jordan out of town. He didn't get along with him. But the hyper-aggressive, super-aggressive general manager of the Rockets, Daryl Morey, who, for the record, just got a 4-year contract extension. He can take risks now. He is safe. He's got an owner that loves him. I am being told the Clippers, all the front office guys were involved. Chris Paul now goes to the Rockets. Your backcourt of Chris Paul and James Harden is going to be absolutely remarkably interesting. Then Trevor Ariza, Ryan Anderson, Eric Gordon, sixth man of the year off the bench. Houston today is a better basketball team. They've got another star, and this is a star-driven league. Daryl Morey, this is very interesting. Let's start with Daryl Morey. He's a little bit of the opposite of Danny Ainge. He ain't into draft picks. He wants stars. He is not patient. He is aggressive. Look around the NBA right now at the best teams. They have been the aggressive teams, not the patient teams. The Golden State Warriors already won a title. The Warriors said, let's be aggressive and get another player. They win another title. Aggressive wins. LeBron James, I'm going to go to Miami, win titles. I'm going to be aggressive. Go to Cleveland, create another one. LeBron wins a title. Houston saying, we're a playoff team. We're not into draft picks. This is one of my beliefs in the NBA now, that what Boston's doing is an outdated model, that draft picks are overstated in value. You are no longer getting a mature player with a refined game. You are getting an immature 19-year-old kid who is not ready physically and not ready emotionally. Minnesota hit 2 home runs in the draft. 3 years later, can't make the playoffs. That Daryl Morey, who has analytically been ahead of a lot of people in this league. By the way, he and Golden State, both those front office, went in on the 3 heavy before other teams. His belief is mine. You cannot build around draft picks. I'm not saying you don't pick Lonzo Ball, but you have to aggressively pursue stars. By the way, the 3 teams in this league rebuilding through draft picks, Phoenix, Philly, Lakers, they tanked, right? They're tanking. How good are they now 3 and 4 years later? Phoenix, Lakers, and Sixers. The draft has changed. It is providing you now, you saw it last week, with 19-year-old kids. They do not win games. So Daryl Morey, I'm into the 3, and I'm into veteran stars if I want to win titles. He is hyper-aggressive. Now, for the Clippers window with Chris Paul closed. Now, obviously, Chris Paul's a very good player. And Chris Paul and Christine and I both, we kind of thought he would stay. And Christine said, and I believe this to be true, that, he wasn't big with DeAndre Jordan. And I kind of believe that he was kind of using some of these trade things. This happens all the time in sports. You release stuff to the agent. You release stuff that gets out, sort of sending a message to your front office guys that, hey, I want something out. I want leverage.
Which he might have been doing, by the way. And he might have just decided, I'm fed up and it's time to go. And I think he did the right thing here. He did right by the Clippers by telling them, hey, I'm going to leave in free agency. Here's a heads up. Now you can get something for me.
Now, okay, so what did the Clippers get? Now, it should be noted, considering in the NBA that when you lose a star, you never get equal value. I mean, you just don't. You never get, when the Lakers lost Shaq, when Orlando lost Shaq, when Milwaukee lost Kareem, you never get equal value. So here's what the Clippers got. Patrick Beverley, a very good number 2 guard that makes peanuts. Lou Williams, terrific 3-ball shooter, will come off your bench. Sam Decker, average player, still in his rookie contract, and a 2018 first-round pick. The problem for the Clippers now, A, they lost their best player. B, they lost their best leader. And C, they have 2 stars now who can't shoot. DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin. That's not a very good basketball team. So the Clippers are not untalented. but they're not as talented. And Lou Williams does give them a break that now they probably don't have to overpay for J.J. Redick. They've got a 3-shooter. So it's not as if the Clippers this morning don't have talented players. They just got 3 guys who will be in their top 7 rotation. But it's a new day. Ballmer signed off on it. Jerry West, I imagine. I am told Clipper executives all had a say. They've got now 3 new guys in their rotation and a great draft pick next year. But they lost a star.
They also gain cap space, though. They were very, very tight. So now that opens that up. And also, if you think about Jerry West was paid reportedly between $4 and $5 million. If he was making that much money, you'd have to think that he was given a lot of power in these types of situations.
Listen, the other thing, good point. There is a banana boat conspiracy theory here that Chris Paul now, this is a 1-year deal in Houston. His contract's up in a year. LeBron's contract's up in a year. Melo and Wade could be bought out. Melo, Wade, CP3, LeBron, close friends. Could they play together somewhere in the next year? The banana boat conspiracy. I don't think that would be a championship team, so I'm not overly fascinated with it, although it'd make a lot of press. So again, the breaking story today is that aggressive is winning in this league, and Daryl Morey, who was one of the first to embrace the three-pointer, has looked around this league, and patient in draft picks, Danny Ainge's last 22 have netted 0 All-Stars. He is now praying that Gordon Hayward comes over. Aggressive wins, and Houston went aggressively after a star. And let me just give Houston some credit here. I don't know how big of a deal this is. So I do not want to overstate this. California's taxes are outrageous, and Houston has no state taxes. And I'm not saying this is at the end of the day a deal breaker or a deal maker. But Daryl Morey can go to a Chris Paul and a LeBron and say, hey, no state tax. You may not get a max deal. We'll give you the most we can. But I think this sometimes, I've been banging on this for a decade now, sometimes it's a factor with certain players maybe getting their big 3rd max deal. It's amazing that you can get a 5th year in Los Angeles and only a 4-year deal in a Houston, a San Antonio, or a Dallas, and the money is still remarkably close if you can make some extra money on a better team and endorsements in Houston, San Antonio, or Dallas. So I'm just throwing that out there in the end. I'm not sure it had any big factor, but I have been told increasingly players on that last big contract do look at state taxes, do look at that factor, and California's are almost double, 13%, than the next highest state, which I think is Connecticut. Now, Houston can give CP3 by trading for him the $200 million. They got his bird rights. So this is kind of a fluid story. So I guess in summation, the Clippers did okay. They got flexibility, as Christine noted. For losing their star, they got some flexibility. I'm not sure if Decker's in their 7-man rotation. Probably not. They've got guys who can play in this league. Patrick Beverly can play. Lou Williams can hit threes. They got a 1st-round pick, and they got flexibility. That's not a terrible thing.
Well, listen, these weren't the guys that they would go out and choose themselves. This was, okay, either take this or lose Chris for nothing.
That's right. And so in the end, it's not a terrible haul, all things considered. You lose a star.
Well, when you think about it, I think they hired Jerry West partly for the idea that maybe they could help lure LeBron James over. Chris Paul was there. He's his friend. So now that plan is changed.
According to Jeff Goodman, the Clippers had a strong feeling that Chris Paul was headed out of Los Angeles, a source told ESPN. Instead of getting nothing, they got value. The projected lineup for the Clippers, did Patrick Beverly maybe start? Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, Lou Williams probably off the bench. I don't know what happens to Decker, Austin Rivers. But listen, you can sit around. I've been saying this about Kevin Pritchard for the Indiana Pacers. I've been on this now for a couple weeks. Is that the Clippers said, we think we're going to lose this guy. Let's not wait. I got to give the Clippers some credit here because I've given it all to Daryl Morey. Let me just say this about the Clippers, is that Kevin Pritchard keeps being patient and patient and patient and patient. there's a precedent in the NBA that if a star wants to go, you better move them quickly. Now, Paul George has not only said, I want to go to LA and play for the Lakers. That narrows your leverage even more in the NBA. So I think Kevin Pritchard, now maybe he can work out something with Boston if Gordon Hayward goes over. Maybe he has more leverage. But increasingly in this league, what the Clippers said was, we don't want to get trapped. And we just don't want to get trapped here. And we don't want to be the team that gets nothing for Chris Paul. So in the end, the Clippers got a first-round pick, couple dudes that can play, rotation players, a couple can hit threes. It's not the worst thing in the world. Here is the projected starting lineup, though, for the Houston Rockets. The team that gets the star always wins these trades. Chris Paul, best defensive guard in the league, best point guard defender, strong point of view, can over-dribble, but a very, very elite point guard. James Harden, a world-class scorer, doesn't play much defense. Chris Paul will help there. I think it's a very good combination. Ariza, Anderson, and then your big Capella, and then off the bench, Eric Gordon, who just won the Sixth Man of the Year award in the NBA. That's a very good team. That team is clearly better than last year's Rockets team. And also, James Harden, I hate to use the word choked or folded. James Harden sort of evaporated, disintegrated in that series at the end. Now the leader of this team, Harden, will be the leading scorer. But can Chris Paul now take some of those leadership burdens and pressures off James Harden? He's not doing every interview. He's not the only player teams attack. So Chris Paul can alleviate some of the burden and the pressure on James Harden. Chris Paul now will share in those duties. He's also a significant upgrade as a starting point guard defensively. Patrick Beverley, they lost, terrific defender. So Houston's got a very good team. The best team in the NBA is Golden State. The second best team is Houston. That, to me, is the third best team in the NBA.